Ambassador Yuna stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, her hands folded behind her back as she listened to the alien voices around her. The massive chamber could hold 10,000 beings, and today it was full. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their floating pods, their strange forms casting shadows under the blue lights. For 300 years, humanity had been part of this council. For 300 years, they had been treated like children who barely knew how to walk. The older races looked down on humans with their ancient eyes and long memories. To them, humans were just babies in the grand story of the galaxy. Yuna had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now. Every day she fought for humanity's voice to be heard. Every day she was pushed aside by beings who had ruled the stars since before humans learned to make fire. The Althari with their crystal bodies spoke of wisdom that spanned millions of years. The Zenthak, tall and thin like walking trees, claimed their civilization was older than Earth's sun. The young species will learn in time, they always said when Yuna spoke up. The humans need guidance. They are not ready for true responsibility. Today was different. Today the council faced a real threat, and Yuna hoped they would finally take action. The Vorthon Empire had been growing stronger for decades. They were a race of warriors who believed might made right. They had already taken over 12 star systems, turning entire populations into slaves. The Vorthons were not members of the council. They had refused to join, calling the other races weak and soft. Now they were moving toward the outer worlds where many younger species lived. Species like humanity. Yuna stepped forward when her turn came to speak. The chamber grew quiet, though she could feel the dismissive thoughts of the ancient races around her. Honored members, she began, her voice carrying across the vast space. The Vorthon Empire grows bolder each day. They have sent messages to Earth demanding tribute. They want our people as workers for their war machine. If we do nothing, they will come for us all. A sound like wind through crystal came from the Althari section. It was their way of laughing. High Counselor Vextar's voice rang out, musical but cold. Young human, your fear clouds your judgment. The Vorthons are strong, yes, but they would not dare challenge the ancient powers. Your world is safe under our protection. What protection? Yuna asked, trying to keep her voice steady. You have done nothing as they enslaved the Carini. You watched as they destroyed the Helian colonies. When will you act? The Zenthak representative, a being called Morthul, who was older than human civilization, spoke with a voice like rustling leaves. Child of Earth, you do not understand the deep currents of galactic politics. Sometimes sacrifice is necessary for the greater peace. The Vorthons will tire of their conquests in time. Yuna felt her heart sink. She had heard these excuses before. The council was more interested in keeping their comfortable positions than protecting the innocent. They had grown weak over thousands of years of peace, afraid to risk their perfect order. And if they don't tire? She pressed. If they decide Earth looks like a good target? Then Earth will learn its place, said another voice. This came from Drexona, a member of the Kithron race. They looked like giant insects with too many eyes. Perhaps it is time the humans understood they are not as important as they believe. The words hit Yuna like a physical blow. She looked around the chamber and saw the truth in the alien faces. They would not help. Some of them even seemed to think humanity deserved whatever was coming. 3 days later, the news came. The Vorthon Empire had made their announcement to the galaxy. They claimed 12 sectors as their territory, including the Sol system where Earth lived. Any species in those areas had 30 days to surrender or face total war. Yuna requested an emergency session of the council. When it convened, she made one last plea. This is our final chance, she said, standing alone in the center of the great chamber. If you act now, we can stop them before they grow too strong. Humanity offers our full support. Our ships, our soldiers, our resources. The chamber filled with that crystal wind sound again. The Althari were laughing harder now. Your ships? Vextar said. Those metal shells you call a fleet? Young human. Your entire navy could not defeat a single Vorthon battle group. You offer us toys to fight a real war. Your soldiers? Added Morthul. Humans live barely a century. How can such brief lives understand true warfare? You are children playing with weapons you do not comprehend. Drexona clicked her mandibles in what passed for amusement among her kind. Perhaps the Vorthons will teach you humility. It might be good for your species to learn its proper place in the order of things. Yuna stood there for a long moment, feeling the weight of their dismissal. 300 years of trying to prove humanity's worth, and this was the result. When Earth faced destruction, the ancient races shrugged and turned away. She activated her communication device and spoke clearly so everyone could hear. I call upon the Galactic Council to protect Earth and its people from Vorthan aggression. The formal vote was quick. Of the 312 council members, only 7 voted to help Earth. The rest voted to do nothing, or voted to simply send a message of regret after humanity was conquered. Yuna bowed her head, then looked up at the sea of alien faces around her. Then humanity will remember this day. We will remember who our friends were, and who chose to abandon us. She turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Behind her, she could hear whispered conversations starting up again. The council was already moving on to other business, dismissing the fate of Earth as a minor tragedy. As she reached her ship, Yuna activated her secure communication system. The message she sent was short and simple, but it would change everything. Diplomatic Option Alpha has failed. Humanity stands alone. Initiate Prometheus Protocol. May God help us all. The message traveled faster than light toward Earth, carrying with it the end of humanity's age of innocence. The ancient races thought they knew everything about the young species from Sol. They were about to learn how wrong they were. In the depths of space, hidden in asteroid fields and disguised as mining platforms, ancient sensors began to wake up. Computers that had been dormant for decades started running final system checks. Weapons that no alien race had ever seen began to power up for the first time. Humanity had been preparing for this day since they first met the aliens. They had learned to smile and bow while building something terrible in the darkness. The galaxy thought humans were weak and naive. Soon they would learn the truth. President Wu sat at the head of the emergency council table in the underground command center beneath Geneva. The room was filled with Earth's most important military leaders, scientists, and intelligence officers. The walls were lined with screens showing data streams from across the solar system. Yuna's message had arrived 6 hours ago. Since then, the world had been preparing for something most people could never imagine. Status report, President Wu said, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. General Hana stood up, her uniform crisp and her expression serious. She was the head of Earth's military forces, or at least the forces that everyone knew about. All surface fleets are moving to defensive positions. The aliens expect us to put up a token resistance with our known ships. And the real fleet? Wu asked. General Hana smiled, and it was not a kind smile. Prometheus fleet is powering up as we speak. All systems are green. We've been waiting for this day for 3 centuries. Dr. Mina stepped forward carrying a tablet filled with technical data. She was the head of the Prometheus project, the most classified program in human history. For 300 years, her predecessors, and now she had been preparing for this moment. Sir, she said, every piece of alien technology we've encountered has been studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade agreement, every cultural exchange has been an intelligence operation. We know their weapons, their shields, their weaknesses. She activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed a 3-dimensional map of the solar system, but this wasn't the solar system that alien visitors saw. Hidden stations appeared like stars coming out at sunset. Asteroid bases, disguised shipyards, and weapons platforms that had been built inside hollowed-out moons. The Althari think their crystal technology makes them superior, Dr. Mina continued. We've been growing crystals that make theirs look like children's toys. The Zenthak believe their energy weapons are the most advanced in the galaxy. We've built weapons that would make their best artillery look like flashlights. Commander Jin, the leader of Earth's official space navy, looked amazed. He had known some secrets, but not the full scope. How did we hide all this? 3 centuries of careful planning, answered Director Kai from the Intelligence Service. Every time an alien ship visited Earth, we made sure they saw exactly what we wanted them to see. Old technology, limited capabilities, humans struggling to understand basic concepts. Meanwhile, our real scientists worked in hidden facilities. Dr. Mina changed the holographic display to show technical specifications. The aliens made one crucial mistake. They underestimated human adaptability. Every race in the galaxy has evolved to think in certain ways. The Althari are logical but slow to change. The Zenthak are wise but predictable. The Kitharon are efficient but rigid. And humans? President Wu asked. Humans learn. Humans adapt. Humans take what works and make it better. Dr. Mina's eyes gleamed with pride. We didn't just copy their technology. We improved it in ways they never imagined because their minds can't think the way ours do. General Hana activated another display showing ship designs. These weren't the clunky vessels that alien observers had seen Earth's Navy using. These ships were sleek, deadly, and built with technology that surpassed anything in known space. The Vorthons are coming with their standard invasion fleet, she said. Heavy battleships, energy weapons, and tactics that have worked for them for centuries. They're expecting to face primitive human vessels with basic weapons. What are they actually going to face? Wu asked. Hell, General Hana said simply. We've designed specific countermeasures for every known alien weapon system. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and carry weapons that can punch through any known shield technology. Dr. Mina pulled up another display showing swarms of small craft. The centerpiece of our strategy is the Reaper drone system. Each drone contains an AI that can learn and adapt in real time. They share information instantly across the entire swarm. The more they fight, the smarter they get. That sounds like it violates the AI prohibition treaties, Commander Jin said. Director Kai laughed coldly. Those treaties were designed to keep younger races from developing dangerous technology. The ancient races have their own AI systems, they just don't share that information. We've been secretly developing our own for 200 years. What about the planet crackers? General Hana asked. Dr. Mina's expression grew serious. Those are for worst-case scenarios. Kinetic weapons that use controlled gravity wells to accelerate asteroids to near light speed. Each one has the power to destroy a large ship or cripple a space station. President Wu stood up and walked to the main screen showing Earth from space. And if we win? What happens then? Then the galaxy learns that humanity is not the weak species they thought we were, Director Kai said. Every race that dismissed us, every council member who voted to abandon us, they'll all have to reconsider what humans are capable of. The Vorthons won't be the only threat, General Hana warned. Once we reveal our true capabilities, other races will try to stop us before we become too powerful. Let them try, Dr. Mina said. We've been preparing for that possibility too. Our manufacturing capabilities are beyond anything they understand. We can build ships faster than they can destroy them. President Wu turned back to face the room. Are we sure about this? Once we unleash these weapons, there's no going back. The galaxy will never see humanity the same way again. Sir, General Hana said, they were never going to see us as equals anyway. They had 3 centuries to accept us as partners. Instead, they treated us like pets. Now they're about to abandon us to slavers. We tried diplomacy. We tried cooperation. They chose this path. The Prometheus fleet is ready, Dr. Mina added. Our weapons are charged. Our crews are trained. We've been waiting 300 years for permission to show the galaxy what humanity can really do. President Wu looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. These men and women had inherited a secret that had been kept since first contact. Now it was time to reveal the truth. Send the signal, he said. Wake up the fleet. Show the aliens that humans are done playing by their rules. Across the solar system, hidden bases received the activation codes. Computers that had been dormant for decades came online. Weapon systems that existed only in classified files began their startup sequences. Ships that had been disguised as asteroids shed their camouflage and revealed their true forms. The Vorthon Empire thought they were coming to conquer a weak, primitive species. The Galactic Council thought they were washing their hands of a minor problem. The ancient races thought they were letting a child learn a harsh lesson. None of them understood what they had actually done. They had awakened something that had been sleeping in the darkness, growing stronger and more dangerous with each passing year. Humanity had been waiting for this moment, preparing for this day when they would finally stop pretending to be weak. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of when they stopped holding back. Admiral Leo stood on the bridge of the battleship Defiance, watching the tactical display as red dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Vorthon invasion fleet had arrived exactly when intelligence predicted they would. Count? He asked his tactical officer. 57 ships, sir. Standard Vorthon battle formation. 12 heavy dreadnoughts, 24 cruisers, and 21 support vessels. Exactly what we expected, Leo nodded. The Vorthons were predictable. They had used the same tactics for centuries because those tactics had always worked. Today, that predictability would be their downfall. Distance to Earth? 6 hours at their current speed, sir. Perfect. Signal the fleet. Begin Phase 1. Across the solar system, humanity's true navy began to move. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields powered up their engines. Weapons platforms disguised as mining stations revealed their real purpose. The Prometheus fleet that had existed only in secret files became a terrible reality. On the Vorthon flagship, War Commander Threk studied the primitive readings his sensors were giving him. The humans had moved their small fleet into a defensive position around their homeworld, just as expected. 23 ships total, all using outdated technology. Pathetic, he growled to his second-in-command. We could destroy their entire fleet with 3 ships. Should we demand surrender first, Commander? Threk's mandibles clicked in amusement. No. The humans need to learn what happens when they defy the Vorthon Empire. We destroy their fleet, then take their world. The survivors will make excellent workers. He had conquered 17 star systems using the same approach. Overwhelming force, brutal tactics, and no mercy for those who resisted. The humans would be no different from all the other weak species he had crushed. That confidence lasted exactly 14 minutes. The first sign something was wrong came when the human fleet split into 3 groups. Instead of forming a single defensive line, Threk frowned at the tactical display. It was either a sign of poor coordination or something more clever. The second sign was when objects began appearing on his sensors. Lots of objects. Small, fast-moving contacts that seemed to be coming from everywhere at once. What are those? He demanded. His sensor officer's voice was confused. Unknown, sir. They're too small to be ships, but they're moving under power. Hundreds of them. Thousands, corrected another officer. Sir, we're reading over 2,000 small contacts approaching our position. Before Threk could respond, the first wave of Reaper drones reached his fleet. Each drone was only 10 meters long, but they moved like angry insects. They swarmed around the Vorthon ships, too fast for the big guns to track. The defensive batteries that were meant to stop missiles and fighters couldn't hit targets that moved with such unpredictable patterns. Impossible, Threk muttered as he watched his ship's point defenses fail to stop the swarm. No one has AI technology that advanced. The drones began their attack. Instead of explosive warheads, they carried focused plasma cutters that could slice through hull armor like it was paper. They worked in coordinated groups, targeting specific systems on each ship. Power conduits, weapon batteries, engine components, everything vital to keeping a warship functional. Sir, his communications officer called out. The Crusher is reporting massive system failures. They're losing power to their main guns. The Devastator says their engines are offline. Bloodfang is showing hull breaches on multiple decks. Threk watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet was taken apart by enemies too small to see properly. The drones seemed to know exactly where to hit each ship for maximum damage. It was like they had complete technical specifications for every vessel in his fleet. Launch all fighters, he ordered. Sweep those things away. The Vorthon fighters launched and engaged the drones in what should have been an easy victory. Fighters were designed to destroy small, fast targets. But the human drones were unlike anything the Vorthons had ever faced. Each drone learned from every encounter. When a fighter used a specific attack pattern, the drones shared that information instantly with every other unit. By the time the second fighter tried the same tactic, the drones already knew how to counter it. Worse, the drones seemed to be learning from the Vorthon fighters themselves. They began using Vorthon tactics against Vorthon pilots, but executed with machine precision and perfect coordination. Sir, we've lost 60% of our fighter screen, reported the tactical officer. The drones are adapting faster than our pilots can adjust. That was when the human ships opened fire. Threk had been so focused on the drone swarm that he hadn't noticed the human vessels moving into position. Now they unleashed weapons that should not have existed. Energy beams that burned through Vorthon shields like they weren't there. Kinetic projectiles that moved so fast they appeared as lines of light. Missiles that changed course multiple times during flight, making them impossible to intercept. How? Threk whispered as he watched one of his dreadnoughts die under concentrated fire from a single human ship. How do they have this technology? His answer came when the humans deployed their most terrible weapon. Engineer Nara watched from the battleship Prometheus as the planet cracker fired for the first time in actual combat. The weapon had been tested in secret but never used against a real enemy. It started as a small gravity well, invisible to normal sensors. The well reached out and grabbed a nearby asteroid, pulling it toward the weapon's focal point. As the asteroid accelerated, the gravity field intensified, compressing the rock into a dense projectile. By the time it left the weapon, the asteroid was moving at 40% of light speed. The Vorthan dreadnought Blood of Conquest never saw it coming. One moment the ship was there, a kilometer-long symbol of alien power. The next moment it was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and metal fragments. The psychological impact on the Vorthan fleet was immediate and devastating. These were warriors who had never known defeat, facing weapons that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. "Sir," Threk's second-in-command said quietly, "perhaps we should withdraw and request reinforcements." Threk stared at the tactical display showing his fleet being systematically destroyed by enemies he had dismissed as primitives. Half his ships were already gone or crippled. The remainder were barely holding their formation. "No," he snarled. "We are Vorthans. We do not retreat from inferior species." But even as he spoke, more human ships were appearing. These weren't the vessels his intelligence had reported. These were warships that matched or exceeded anything his empire could build. The humans hadn't just been hiding their true capabilities. They had been pretending to be weak while building a fleet that could challenge the greatest powers in the galaxy. "All ships," he transmitted to his remaining forces, "concentrate fire on the human flagship. If we can kill their leader, we can still win this." 20 Vorthan ships turned their weapons toward the Defiance, pouring everything they had into a coordinated attack that should have vaporized any known vessel. Admiral Leo watched the energy readings spike as the alien attack struck his ship's shields. The bridge crew tensed, waiting for the inevitable hull breaches and system failures. Instead, the shields held. Not only held, but barely showed any strain at all. "Damage report," Leo called out. "Shields at 97%, sir. No hull damage. All systems nominal." Leo smiled coldly. "Return fire. Show them what human engineering can really do." The Defiance fired a single concentrated burst that punched through 3 Vorthan ships in a line. The energy beam was so powerful it continued through all 3 hulls and dispersed harmlessly into space. That was when Threk finally understood the truth. The humans weren't just stronger than expected. They were stronger than anyone in the galaxy. These weren't primitive weapons adapted from stolen technology. These were weapons designed by minds that thought differently from any alien race. "Signal the fleet," he said, his voice barely audible. "General retreat." Emergency jump to hyperspace, but the humans weren't finished. As the surviving Vorthan ships tried to escape, more human vessels appeared to block their path. The retreat became a massacre as the aliens found themselves trapped between human battle groups. In the end, only one Vorthan ship escaped to carry word of the defeat back to the Empire. Admiral Leo had specifically allowed it to leave, wanting the galaxy to know what had happened. The message was simple and terrible. Humanity was no longer hiding. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. Within hours of the battle, every major civilization in the galaxy knew what had happened at Earth. The Vorthan Empire's greatest invasion fleet had been completely destroyed by the species everyone thought was weak and primitive. Captain Sue stood on the bridge of the human vessel. Liberation as it approached the mining world of Kepler 442b. This had been a Vorthan slave camp for 15 years, home to over 2 million beings from a dozen different species. Now it would be the first world freed by the new human fleet. "Long-range sensors are picking up Vorthan ships in orbit," reported Lieutenant Park. 2 battleships and 6 escorts. Standard garrison force. Any response to our approach? They're demanding we identify ourselves and state our business. They seem confused about our ship design. Captain Sue smiled grimly. The Vorthans had clearly not yet received word about what happened to their invasion fleet. In a few minutes, they would learn the hard way that everything had changed. "Open a channel," she ordered. "Let me speak to their commander." The screen flickered to life, showing a typical Vorthan warrior. Tall, broad, with thick armor plating covering most of his body. His eyes were small and cruel, and his mandibles clicked with irritation. "Unknown vessel," he growled. "You are approaching Vorthan territory without permission. Identify yourself or be destroyed." "This is Captain Sue of the Earth vessel Liberation," she replied calmly. "We're here to free the slaves you've taken from their homeworlds. You have one chance to surrender peacefully." The Vorthan commander stared at her for a moment, then began laughing. It was a harsh, grating sound that echoed through the bridge. "Humans," he said when he stopped laughing. "You pathetic creatures dare to threaten the Vorthan Empire. One of our battle groups could destroy your entire species. Actually, Captain Sue said, we just destroyed one of your battle groups, along with most of your invasion fleet. Would you like to see the recordings? The alien's laughter died instantly. Impossible. You're lying. Captain Sue transmitted the battle footage from Earth. The Vorthan commander watched in growing horror as his species' most powerful ships were torn apart by human weapons. When the recording ended, his face had gone pale. Surrender now, Captain Sue repeated, and your crews will be treated fairly. Continue to resist and you'll share the fate of your invasion fleet. The Vorthon ships opened fire instead of responding. It was exactly what Captain Sue had expected. The Vorthans had built their entire culture around the idea that strength meant everything. They couldn't accept that another species might be stronger. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it was over, 6 Vorthon ships were destroyed and 2 had surrendered. The human vessel hadn't taken a single hit. Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, emergency sessions were being called in every major government. The implications of Earth's victory were staggering, and alien leaders struggled to understand what it meant. On the crystal world of Althar Prime, High Counselor Vextar stared at the tactical analysis his scientists had prepared. The numbers were impossible to argue with. Human technology had surpassed anything the ancient races possessed. How? He asked his chief scientist. How did they advance so far without us knowing? We may have underestimated their learning capability, came the reluctant reply. Our reports show they've been studying every piece of technology they encountered. It appears they were reverse engineering and improving our designs while pretending to need our help. Vextar felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia: fear. The Althari had ruled the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten what it felt like to face a superior force. On the forest world of Zenthak, Elder Morthul convened the Circle of Wisdom for the first time in 2 centuries. The ancient leaders gathered around their sacred grove, their voices rustling like wind through leaves. The young species has revealed hidden strength, Morthul said. Our sensors show human ships throughout their system that should not exist. Technology that rivals our own. Perhaps we were wrong to dismiss them, admitted another elder. Perhaps we should have listened when their ambassador asked for help. It is too late for regrets, Morthul replied. The question now is what the humans plan to do with their new power. Dr. Han stood in the command center on Earth, watching displays that showed human ships across the galaxy. The liberation of Vorthon slave worlds was proceeding faster than anyone had expected. But that was only the beginning of humanity's plans. Automated factory ships are online, she reported to the assembled leaders. We can now build a new warship every 6 hours. The Vorthans built their empire over centuries. We can match their fleet strength in months. What about the other races? Asked President Wu. How are they responding? Mixed reactions, replied Director Kai. The species we're liberating from Vorthan slavery are calling us heroes. The Kalani have already requested a formal alliance. The Hafari want to join the human sphere of protection. And the ancient races? Panic, Kai said with satisfaction. Complete panic. They're realizing that everything they thought they knew about galactic power has changed overnight. The truth was even worse for the ancient races than humanity's leaders knew. Secret meetings were taking place across the galaxy as civilizations that had dominated for millennia struggled to understand their new situation. The insectoid Kitharon held emergency councils in their hive cities. Drexona herself had been present at the Galactic Council when Ambassador Yuna made her final plea. Now she understood the true meaning of the humans' parting words. They knew, she reported to the hive queens. The humans knew we would abandon them. They planned for this moment. Can we negotiate with them? Asked one of the queens. On what terms? Drexona replied. We mocked them. We called them children. We voted to let them be enslaved. Why would they trust anything we say now? Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. The Galactic Council tried to convene an emergency session, but many members refused to attend. Some were too afraid to leave their homeworlds. Others were busy trying to build defenses against potential human attack. The few who did attend found themselves facing a crisis they had no idea how to handle. For thousands of years, they had maintained peace through a careful balance of power between the ancient races. Now that balance was shattered, the humans weren't just strong. They were growing stronger every day. Intelligence reports showed human factory ships converting asteroids into raw materials for new warships. Other reports described human weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Most terrifying of all were the reports about human AI systems. The Reaper drones that had devastated the Vorthon fleet were learning and adapting at impossible speeds. Each engagement made them more dangerous. "We created this situation," admitted Counselor Yaxeril of the Thurian Confederacy. "We treated them like children when we should have treated them as equals." "It's too late for apologies," said another member. "The question is whether we can survive what's coming." But even as the ancient races worried about human intentions, the humans were already showing what kind of civilization they intended to build. Every world liberated from Vorthon control was offered protection and alliance rather than conquest. Captain Nuri watched from her ship as former slaves built monuments to their human liberators. The beings they had freed weren't being forced to serve Earth. Instead, they were being given the choice to join a new galactic order based on cooperation rather than domination. "It's not about revenge," she told her crew as they prepared to jump to the next slave world. "It's about showing the galaxy what real strength looks like. We're not here to replace the old tyrants. We're here to make sure tyranny itself becomes impossible." The galaxy was learning that humanity's true power wasn't just in their weapons. It was in their ability to inspire others to be better than they had been before. The ancient races had ruled through fear and tradition. Humanity was offering something new, hope. And that was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all for those who had grown comfortable with the old way of doing things. Admiral Una stood on the bridge of the massive fortress ship Prometheus, watching the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history approach her position. The ancient races had finally overcome their fear and pride enough to work together. Their combined armada stretched across space like a metal storm cloud. "Final count?" she asked her tactical officer. 3,417 ships, came the reply. "Every major race is represented. Althari crystal dreadnoughts, Zenthak bioships, Kitharon swarm vessels, and dozens of smaller allied fleets." Una nodded calmly. She had expected something like this. The ancient races had spent months building this coalition, putting aside millennia of rivalry and competition to face what they saw as an existential threat. They called it the Great Alliance, and it represented more firepower than had ever been gathered in one place. Against them, humanity had brought 800 ships. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported the communications officer. "They want to speak with you." "Put them through." The main screen lit up, showing multiple alien faces. High Counselor Vextar of the Althari spoke first, his crystal form reflecting the bridge lights. "Admiral Una," he said, his voice carrying the authority of ages. "You were once a diplomat. You understand the delicate balance that has kept the galaxy peaceful for millions of years. Your species threatens to destroy everything we have built." Elder Morthal's image appeared next, ancient beyond measure. "Young one, your people have grown strong, but strength without wisdom leads only to destruction. Stand down your fleets. Return to your world. We will find a place for humanity in the proper order of things." Drexona's multiple eyes glittered with malice. "You have freed slaves and called it justice. You have destroyed fleets and called it defense. But we know what you really want. You want to rule the galaxy as we have ruled it." Admiral Una listened to their words, then looked beyond them to see the vast armada they had brought, 10 times her numbers, representing the accumulated military might of civilizations that had dominated space since before Earth's sun was born. "You're wrong," she said simply. "We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to save it." "Save it from what?" demanded Vextar. "From you," Una replied. "From your corruption, your stagnation, your willingness to let evil flourish as long as it doesn't threaten your comfort. You had the power to stop the Vorthons decades ago. Instead, you watched them enslave entire worlds because it was easier than acting." "We maintained stability," Morthal protested. "The galaxy was at peace. The galaxy was dying," Una said. "Peace built on the suffering of others is not peace at all. It's cowardice dressed up as wisdom." The alien leaders conferred among themselves for a moment. When they turned back to face her, their expressions had hardened. "Then you leave us no choice," Vextar said. "Surrender now or face the consequences." "I have a better idea," Admiral Una replied. "Look behind you." The alien fleet began reporting massive energy readings from the direction Una had indicated. What they saw there defied their understanding of engineering and physics. Dr. Soren had been working on the Starforge project for 20 years. It was humanity's most ambitious weapon, a device that could reach across interstellar distances to touch the heart of a star itself. Today it would fire for the first time. The target was the Rigel system, home to the oldest Althari colony. Not the inhabited worlds, but the star itself. The Starforge reached out with invisible tendrils of exotic energy, touching the nuclear furnace that had burned for billions of years. Deep in the star's core, fusion reactions began to destabilize. The careful balance that had kept the star burning steadily was disrupted. In a matter of minutes, what had been a stable star became a supernova. The light reached the battlefield first, followed by a wave of radiation and stellar material. The ancient fleets watched in horror as an entire solar system died, illuminated by the death of its sun. "Impossible," whispered Vextar. "No technology can do that." "Human technology can," Admiral Yuna said. "That was a demonstration. A warning. We have 37 more Starforges aimed at the home systems of every species in your alliance. Stand down now or watch your civilizations burn." The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. These were beings who had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, who had never faced a threat to their existence. Now they stared into the face of extinction. "You're bluffing," Drexona said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Are you willing to bet your homeworld on that?" Yuna asked. The Great Alliance began to fracture almost immediately. Fleet commanders who had been eager for battle suddenly found reasons to withdraw. Species that had joined the Alliance reluctantly began jumping to hyperspace without orders. But the core races of the Old Order refused to back down. The Althari, Zenthak, and Kitharon fleets remained, along with their most loyal allies. They had ruled too long to accept defeat without a fight. "Very well," Vextar said. "If we die today, we will take you with us." The battle that followed was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The ancient races fought with the desperation of cornered animals, throwing everything they had at the human fleet: energy weapons that could melt planets, kinetic projectiles that moved at relativistic speeds, exotic weapons that twisted space itself. But humanity had prepared for this moment as well. Their ships moved like dancers in the void, coordinated by AI systems that could think faster than any organic mind. The Reaper drones had evolved again, now capable of disabling enemy vessels without destroying them. Admiral Leo, commanding the human battle line, watched as his ships carved through formations that had seemed invincible. The ancient races were powerful, but they fought the way they had always fought. Humanity fought the way they needed to fight. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the Althari flagship is attempting to ram us." "Let them come," Leo replied. "Activate the gravity wells." The Althari crystal ship accelerated toward the Prometheus, its commander choosing death before dishonor. But the human fortress ship deployed a technology the aliens had never seen: artificial gravity fields that could redirect massive objects. The crystal ship's ram attempt was turned aside, sending it spinning harmlessly into space. Its crew, dizzy and disoriented, could only watch as human boarding pods attached to their hull. Within hours, the battle was over. The Great Alliance lay in ruins, its ships captured or destroyed. The ancient races that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years knelt defeated before a species that had been in space for only 3 centuries. Ambassador Kai stood before the emergency assembly of the Galactic Council, now meeting in a human ship rather than their ancient chambers. The surviving alien leaders sat in simple chairs rather than their traditional floating thrones. "The Galactic Council is hereby dissolved," he announced. "Its authority is ended. Its rule is finished." "What will replace it?" asked one of the surviving counselors. "A government that actually governs," Kai replied. "A system based on justice rather than tradition. A civilization that protects the weak instead of exploiting them." As the new order took shape, something beautiful happened across the galaxy. The stellar material from the destroyed star in the Rigel system had spread through space, creating aurora displays that could be seen from dozens of worlds. Streams of cosmic radiation painted the darkness with bands of brilliant color. From a distance, it looked like the stars themselves were weeping, tears of light that marked the end of one age and the beginning of another. The ancient races had learned too late that underestimating humanity was the greatest mistake they could make. Now, as human ships patrolled the trade routes and human laws protected the innocent, they understood the truth. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, not through conquest, but through the simple fact that humans were the only ones strong enough and wise enough to keep it safe. The stars cried out in brilliant displays of light, and the universe listened to their new song,